Most of us, as small children, learned some of the very basics of our faith. Remember your little kid catechism? Who made me? God made me. Where is God? God is everywhere. And those are two very profound truths. And I'm sure we never realized it when we said those words as little kids. But God is everywhere is saying God is creator, but not just creating, but sustaining creation. God is everywhere in God's creation, holding it up and sustaining it. And therefore, you can see God in all of creation and in all people. And we are made in the image and likeness of God to reflect the presence of God. That's pretty profound. And it's very interesting that looking at religion over the centuries, even very primitive people had a concept of a God beyond them and over them. One concept that was very constant in early peoples was the Great Spirit. That there was a Great Spirit that was beyond them and within them. And it's all kinds of people, like the American Indians, very much believed in the Great Spirit. And that Great Spirit very much parallels our belief in God the Father, creating and sustaining us in creation. It's almost universal in humankind. That sense of a spirit beyond us, calling us to a deeper and better life. And of course, as Christians, we go a step further. We have Jesus who becomes one of us. And Jesus teaches us how to live by his teaching and the example of his life. And Jesus promises to be with us beyond his earthly life. That's the whole thing of resurrection that we're celebrating right now. Resurrection is not a past thing, it's a present thing. Jesus is risen. And so we have the presence of the risen Jesus with us today. And in that presence of the risen Jesus, we have today's gospel where Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Now, probably many people aren't familiar with grapevines, but the grapevine is like wood, and it comes out of the ground and it branches off, usually in professional vines, into 4 branches. And they're like wooden. And every spring from these branches, or the vine rather, these branches sprout. And in these branches, the branches produce leaves and clusters of grapes. But they only do that in union with the vine. As long as they're together with that wooden thing we call the vine. And so Jesus is the vine, we are the branches. We are to produce fruit that bears fruit in life and bears fruit for ourselves and for each other, but only in union with the vine. And the gospel says that branches that do not produce are cut off. Well, why are they cut off? Well, they're not producing, they're taking strength from the vine. If you cut them off, there's more strength for the branches that are bearing fruit. And that's the meaning of Jesus saying the branches are pruned away. Now, I think in life, there are some who do not produce fruit. And Jesus doesn't prune away, they just drop away. You know people who have little or no faith and aren't producing much, if anything. Yeah, they drop away. And one of the big things in our American culture, we have 2 things that really militate against being part of the vine. And one is materialism. As Americans, we're very materialistic, getting material things. And what happens is the material tends to take the place of the spiritual. And so as you become more and more materialistic, there's a tendency not to be spiritual, to drop off the vine. And it's pretty predominant in our American culture. The other thing is that a branch of the vine will produce some leaves and maybe a couple clusters of grapes, but by itself it's not that much. And it's only in union with many branches of the vine that the vine really produces. And so, yeah, we produce, we're a branch in the vine, but we have to realize how much we're in union with other people. And it's only together with many others that we really produce and really become God's kingdom. I had an experience of this about 3 or 4 years ago. I did a study cruise. We were going down the Rhine River in Germany, and we were going down miles of hillsides with vines. Must have been thousands and thousands of acres of vines producing grapes. And it got you in touch with what the worldwide situation is. We are one branch with a couple clusters under this huge, immense amount of vines. And it's in union with them that we really produce. And so individualism, it doesn't produce that much. And we're very individualistic in our American culture. And of course, individualism, well, that goes hand in hand with materialism. The more material things we get, the more individualistic we become. What I can get for myself. It's not the way we are. We're meant to be there for each other. We're meant to take what we have and use it for the good of others. It's where it's at. And so I think we have to watch these things of materialism and individualism that really militate against being good branches in the vine. And there's another analogy I like that's not this, but it's related to this, that we're each containers for God's love. Allow God's love to fill us so we can give it to others. I like an example of a jar that can be filled. We're like that jar to be filled with God's love. However, what happens is that our faults, our imperfections, our fears are like rocks in this jar. And with every rock, there's less room for God's love. And so our challenge in life is to be good members of the good branches on the vine, is to be able to take out those rocks, our fears, our insecurities, our faults. And every time we take out a rock, there's more room for God's love. And that's a challenge in life to deal with, to become more and more full of God's love so we can be good branches on the vine for ourselves and for others.